life, the economy and society, and we're going to have to methodically and systematically and carefully work our way through how we fix the impacts where it's done damage and where we change how we do things in the future. So I don't have all of the answers to that right now, and I think Parliament would rightly be a bit miffed if I stood up here and tried to give you all of the answers to that right now. But just as we did at the outset of this crisis to put in place the protection against eviction, as we move into a different phase, we will have to consider what protections are appropriate for a longer-term period and what bigger changes we want to see. Actually, everybody in this chamber has a part to play in that, as have the entirety of the Scottish population. I would never, ever have wished the circumstances in which we're having these discussions, but it is undoubtedly the case that it gives us an opportunity to change things for the better.
It's undoubtedly the case that it's brought about an opportunity to change things for the better. I've played this clip in numerous videos now, but I just thought I'd play it again to, refresh your memory as we go forward here.
Important in the short term, but it is also vital to help lay the groundwork for a sustainable economic recovery.
Together we're tackling COVID-19, but now it's time to work together on recovery. For our part, the SNP will work tirelessly to protect jobs, to support businesses and to invest in the industries of the future. We've already started by investing £230 million in a return to work package to invest in jobs across the country, as well as supporting industries that have been hard hit, like the oil and gas, to transition to green energy. We can all help Scotland recover from the impacts of COVID-19. So let's get on with building a more resilient, sustainable country that's
a more sustainable country. I'm going to continue to refresh your memory as the 17 global goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, as they're more commonly known, whatever you will. Of course, who signed us up to the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015? Well, it was our very own Nicola Thinlips, who had this to say. In 2015, the First Minister announced Scotland's intention to sign up for the goals, as well as the Rainbow Unicorn Government's plan for implementation domestically in Scotland through the National Performance Framework and the Scottish National Action Plan for Human Rights, a commitment which was very well received and viewed as Scotland providing an international leadership on reducing inequality, so-called inequality, both domestically and internationally. In committing to these goals, Thinlips declared that they offered a vision of the world that she believes Scotland share. Well, she didn't fucking ask me, pardon my French. Ending poverty and hunger, securing education and health services, and of course combating so-called inequality and achieving non-existent gender equality. I say non-existent in the sense that they speak of. She was quoted as saying at the time, of course, that tackling poverty and inequality in Scotland is one of the government's central aims for one simple reason: our success as a nation depends upon our working together to deliver a strong economy, quote unquote, while supporting a fairer society. Now, how do they define fair? Well, I don't know, ask the socialists. As much as we strive to create a fairer Scotland, we must realise that inequality and poverty is not restricted to our borders, it's a global issue. Well, isn't that something? So why do I bring this up yet again? Well, if we go back to an article I've also covered on numerous occasions, building a so-called fairer Scotland with well-being at its heart, one of the following quotes is, as we recover and rebuild, we must not return to the way things were. We must not, notice the word used here. It's not that we can't go back, it's we must not. Now, why do I bring this all up? Well, it all ties into the so-called coronavirus, the so-called pandemic, whatever you will. The thing that's trashed our economy, aka the lockdown. Why was this brought about? Well, let's go to the United Nations, of course. A little memory jump.
From here at United Nations, I join you in welcoming the new year. We enter 2020 with uncertainty and insecurity all around. Persistent inequality and rising hatred, a warring world and a warming planet. Climate change is not only a long-term problem, but a clear and present danger, and we cannot afford to be the generation that fiddled while the planet burned. But there is also hope. This year, my New Year's message is to the greatest source of that hope, the world's young people. From climate action to gender equality to social justice and human rights, your generation is on the front lines and in the headlines. I'm inspired by your passion and determination. You are rightly demanding a role in shaping the future, and I am with you. The United Nations stands with you and belongs to you. 2020 marks the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. We are launching a decade of action for the Sustainable Development Goals.
A decade of action for the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, what is the decade of action? Well, the decade of action, he came out in December time. Not the first time he's talked about it, but he came out in December time saying that they were announcing the decade of action. The decade of action, as it says quite clearly on the screen here, is the acceleration or to accelerate sustainable solutions to all the world's biggest challenges, ranging from poverty and gender to climate change and inequality and closing the finance gap. Now, the Sustainable Development Goals, of course, is all about transforming our worlds. That's what they talk about, Agenda 2030, transforming our worlds. Sustainable Development Goals are the blueprint to achieve what they claim is a better and, of course, more sustainable future for all. They address the global challenges we face, including those related to poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace and justice, etc., etc. And then goes on to talk about leaving no one behind right there. It is important that we all achieve them by 2030. Now, the reason that this is all tied in is the fact that we had calls for a decade of action. Then all of a sudden there was a pandemic, supposedly, which requires economic shattering lockdowns, and the solution to come out of the other side, the recovery, if you will, is a sustainable one, a more green one, a more fair one, a well-being economy, that type of thing. All ties in neat and nice, of course, though, with the Sustainable Development Goal agenda that Nicola Thinlips, as well as many other leaders across the Western world and elsewhere, signed us all up to in 2015. You know, and speaking of the well-being economy, as it says here, just again to jog people's memory before, you know, I stop going on a tangent and move a bit more forward. You know, the wellbeing economy, where does that come from? Oh, what a shock, it comes from the United Nations. This is sustainablegoals.org.uk. A new economy for all. You know? Transforming our world. A new economy for all. And what are they talking about? Well, we know what they're talking about. They're talking about a wellbeing economy, as it says, as we come down here. Building a well-being economy. So, with that in mind, we come to sustainable development can lead to recovery, or lead the recovery even. The Rainbow Unicorn Government has published its landmark review of the progress Scotland has made in delivering the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which aim to end poverty, protect the planet and ensure prosperity for all. The review was developed in partnership with the SDG Network Scotland, of course, a coalition of over 500 organisations and individuals, and provides the most detailed and honest analysis to date of any nation within the UK in progress towards the SDGs. Its contributors urge leaders and champions from all areas of Scottish society, including children and young people, of course, to make the choice to join them to drive the Sustainable Development Agenda forward. And of course, you always tie in children and young people because you have implemented a sustainable element into the economy. They learn about sustainability. They learn about climate change. They learn about all of the things that the Sustainable Development Agenda requires. Isn't that something? They target children and they fill these children's heads with the idea that, you know, they're the future, etc., etc. Their opinions matter and whatnot. No, you're brainwashing children. So you're doing. Rainbow Unicorn Land is making good progress, but the report also highlights a number of gaps and challenges for the country that existed before the pandemic, and it suggests how we can move forward. I mean, even if this pandemic was real, why can't we go back to normal? Isn't it funny that they are trying so damn hard to ensure that we don't go back to normal? You know, the use of the terminology, a new normal, etc. Isn't it funny? Never let a good crisis go to waste there. But isn't it special? Isn't that great when they're the ones themselves that manufactured said crisis, if you ask me? It also says that now in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, quote unquote, the importance of a global approach to a green and just recovery, socially just, whatever you will. But you know, the point is that why do we need this? The importance of a global approach to a green and just recovery is further heightened, and Scotland's role in this is crucial. A little Rainbow Unicorn Land has a crucial role to play, does it? Is that right? Oh, you just so fool yourself. The timing in the publication of this review could not be more important, as Scotland's plans to build back and aim for a sustainable future, said Paul Bradley, coordinator of the SDG network. Through the network's organisations and individuals have come together in partnership with the Rainbow Unicorn Government to show the commitment to creating a fairer and healthier planet. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I'm trying not to flip. You know, not every video that I do is a rant, but it's becoming more and more hard at this point. Can people not understand what's going on here? This is the point I've been trying to make for so long, in so many of my videos now. This shit in relation to COVID-19, as they call it, it's all because of the Sustainable Development Agenda. They were ploughing on ahead with this prior to this, and lo and behold, the solution to come out the other side of it is the exact same thing. You know, this is just an opportunity, like the video that I played of Nicola Thinlips, this is the opportunity that's landed in their lap. Isn't that convenient? Just out of the blue. They've been granted an opportunity to do things differently. All the things that they had planned, but they didn't know how to do it. Now they can because of this so-called virus. A sustainable recovery, aye? Fuck your sustainability, if you ask me, but that's just me, you know. The report makes the case that the Rainbow Unicorn government can do more to ensure all policy action complements and promotes sustainable development aspirations, not at least through further work, aligning Scotland's national outcomes to the SDGs to ensure the country does not lose sight of where it needs to get to by 2030. Anne Fowley, Chief Executive of the Rainbow Unicorn Council for Voluntary Organisations, said, "I welcome the unique approach the Rainbow Unicorn Government has taken throughout this review, which shows that the goals are challenging but achievable when it works together with the voluntary sector and wider society. The country's commitment to sustainable development must now drive forward a green recovery that addresses inequalities in the wake of the pandemic." I mean, this is just ridiculous. And then it says that a broad coalition in Rainbow Unicorn Land built on an active membership, whatever. Catherine G, Operators Director of Keep Scotland Beautiful, a member of the interim steering group, said that the ambitions of the UN Sustainable Development Goals have never been more important. We've all experienced the health benefits of our local environment during the global pandemic, and with the interconnected social health and justice benefits of a greener, more sustainable recovery are clear to see. Great work has been carried out in Scotland to support the delivery of the 17 goals, but much more needs to be done. Is that right? Well, wouldn't you know, now we've got the Decade of Action requiring accelerating the transformation of society to achieve these targets. It's almost as if it's all connected, you know? Or maybe I'm just wearing a tinfoil hat. Maybe I am. I don't know. So, but I highly suggest that people read through this. I really do. I also suggest that people read through this. And then come back to me and tell me if I'm wearing a tinfoil hat or not. Peace.